Welcome to another edition of Play It Through, and this time around it's Nightmare on Elm Street, brought to us by LJN and Rare. Now, LJN is notorious for making bad licensed games on the NES. However, Nightmare on Elm Street is not one of them. It's an average platformer with, of course, a horror theme, but overall, the controls work, it's fun to play, and it has a unique 4-player mode. It doesn't really work that well if you can actually get 4 people to play this game at once, but it was a neat concept that not many other games had. It also has some other unique stuff that we'll get into later on in the game. So here we go with Nightmare on Elm Street on the NES. Now, in this game, your basic goal is you have to go around and collect pieces of Freddy that are located in all these different houses, and then go into the school, go into the furnace, and throw all the remains into the furnace and burn them and get rid of Freddy once and for all. Now, you do have a set path, even though you kind of have this overworld map where it looks like you can go anywhere, but at every time there's only one place you can go into. And it starts off with one of 3 houses. Now, the layouts of the houses are always the same. You're always going to get this house first, the second one second, and of course the third one third. However, what houses they actually are in changes every time. For example, this one was the middle house. Now, it can start off that you'll start in the first house, or you could be at the third house to be the first one. I know it's a little bit confusing, but it's just one of those randomness factors that LJN put in some of these games. Friday the 13th was a complete random game, and is another one of those horror-based LJN games that I actually enjoy. Now, each level or each area is made up of basic platform and getting over areas, but you're collecting bones. You can see you have a bone count meter at the top of the screen, as in the middle as you have the Nightmare on Elm Street logo, and below that is the counter for all the bones you have to collect. Once you collect all the bones on a given map, you can then go into the next area. Now, the bones are always placed at the same spots, so that doesn't really change. It would have been pretty neat, actually, to have had a randomness factor where the bones would have changed places every single time you played the game. It would have made it, playing the game over and over again, a unique challenge. As I am actually getting ready to face the first boss, and I actually am doing one of the cool, unique things. If you notice, I changed forms, and now I'm actually able to throw a projectile. In this game, you have 3 unique forms that you can change into. You have this athlete form, which is like a track and field star that throws javelins. You have a necromancer or a wizard form that can shoot like these beams out. And then you have my favorite form, the ninja form, where not only do you throw a ninja star out, you also do a jump kick every time you jump in the air. So it adds, like, if you just jump and kick an enemy right, instead of taking damage, you're going to do damage to the enemy. You can only turn into these forms, as far as I know, really, during the boss battles, or if you go into sleep mode, then you can actually turn into them at any time. To turn into these forms, you must collect the different things. Like, right there, I grabbed that gray plaque of the guy running. It's the athlete plaque. You have one for the wizard, and you have one for the ninja as well, which adds some pretty unique gameplay elements. Now, it would have been kind of cool, and some people have complained that if you could turn into those forms at all times, but I think it would take away some of the horror element of trying to survive and trying not to take too much damage. Now, you may notice I really don't have a health meter, but every time you take 5 hits, you lose a life. As you can see, my health meter is at the top, is my sleep meter, and next to it is the amount of lives I have. I wish it would kind of tell you how many hits you can take, but unfortunately you just kind of have to remember how many hits you can take. Now, if you complete a place defeating the boss without dying, your health is fully regenerated, so that you can take the hits again. So, I can go throughout the run and take a few hits, beat a level, and then I'm going to gain my health back, so I don't have to worry. I have a little bit of leniency when it comes to being able to take damage from enemies. Now, I really haven't said too much about the bosses, and I've already fought one and I just beat the second one. The first 2 bosses are almost the exact same. The first one is Freddy's Claw, that just is attached to basically a rope, kind of like a chain chomp in Mario, and it just comes at you. Same right there was Freddy's head, for some reason, attached to another one of those chains, like the chain chomp. Comes at you as well, except that one actually drops little extra enemies on the ground that try to do extra damage to you. It's completely reliant on where you're standing. It's hard to figure out exactly how far the claw is going to come at you each time, but staying close to it and then running away is usually the best strategy to get far enough away that it'll stop close to you, and you can launch a few javelins into it in order to do damage. Now, like I said, in this run, I'm going to play as every one of the forms, though the ninja form is my favorite and I think overall the best. Unless you want to keep using the turbo button, then you can easily throw the javelins and do more damage with them, or the wizard, I guess. But I like the ninja form because it allows me to be able to hit certain enemies. Now there's a boss later on in the game where you fight 2 enemies at once. And you can use, if you manipulate it correctly, you can use the jump kick to hit both of them every time you jump up. Or at least a few times during the battle you can hit both of them at once, so it does a little bit more damage and you can beat the battle a little bit more quickly. Now this is already the 3rd house, and you may wonder how many houses. There's 3 houses, and then you're forced to go to the junkyard, then to the cemetery, then you have to go to another house. It's Freddy's house, I guess. I kind of like the main building, the final house, where it has multiple places. And then you go to the school building, where in the basement you have to run a gauntlet, a boss rush, of all the bosses you fought throughout the game. And then you finally get to burn Freddy's pieces into the furnace and complete the game. Now, overall, this is a longer game than Friday the 13th, so it gets props for that, because you can, manipulate Friday the 13th to beat it in less than 10 minutes. But, like I said before, this is a pretty decent game. Now, it's really not too much based on the license of Nightmare on Elm Street. I mean, you have, like, basic horror-themed enemies, like from Castlevania, with, like, a snake and bats and stuff, but you don't have a whole lot of, like, of you actually fighting Freddy. If you go into sleep mode, you will do a one-on-one battle with Freddy that's actually really, really easy. He has, like, one of the easiest patterns to kind of follow in any game. Now here is the 3rd boss of the game. This is another battle with Freddy's hand, the claw hand. And I am using the wizard form in this one. As you can see, I shoot like a little lightning bolt out and do damage to Freddy through that. And he just bounces around. He's really easy to dodge. If you know how the physics are going to work when he bounces off certain walls and where he's going to go from there, you can easily get around him and never take any damage during that battle. The first 3 houses are now complete, and now I have to kind of run past the other 2 houses that I already completed. The good thing is that you can only go into the one building. Like, some people have complained about that you can only go into the one building that you need to, so what's the point of having all the other houses available? Why not just do, like, a level system where I beat one level and go to the next one? But I just kind of give it props for being different from a lot of the other games that were coming out at the time. As there is the final level of the game, there's the high school, which we won't be getting to quite yet. We have to now go to the junkyard, which is located all the way on the end of the map. So you have to travel the entire length of Elm Street to get to where the junkyard's located. So you get to see all the other places that we're going to be completing after we beat the junkyard. There's the cemetery. We'll be doing that next after the junkyard. So the good thing is, though, once we get all the way to the right into the junkyard, we'll be heading to the left. Heading to the cemetery, then Freddy's house, and then at the school. So we don't have to, like, kind of run around trying to figure out what buildings we can go into next. We just go from right to left for the next 4 areas. Now this is the junkyard area, a little bit different from the houses just because it's a junkyard theme, but same ordeal. You're going around and you're going to collect all the different bones that are laid throughout the level. One of the other things I just picked up there, which I hadn't mentioned yet, is the mug of coffee, which is a pretty unique thing just because you have to deal with the sleep meter in this game, not wanting to fall asleep. So you pick up the coffee mug, drink the coffee, and your sleep meter refills all the way. So it's another one of those cool little things that they put into the game. This is why I said this game is pretty decent. They put a decent amount of effort into the game to make it unique, use the license as they could, because you're doing it based on a slasher horror movie. It's kind of hard to show that on the NES. I think Friday the 13th did a better job of the horror slasher video game being element of surprise. You never know when Jason's just going to randomly appear and attack you, and you have that shocking music. But since Freddy isn't really always about that, it's more of the person falls asleep and you never know if they're awake or are sleeping until Freddy shows up and, antics ensue. Now, as the series went on, they got more and more elaborate, and some weird stuff would go on throughout the entire series, but that was how it was all based. So I think they kind of took that concept of having the dream world, or, you never being able to change form so that you couldn't do that in real life, so you kind of know they're sleeping. But unless I fall asleep in this game, the sleep meter runs out, you're not going to see that form, or that mode, which is basically the same level, just, it's like the music changes and it goes to a different world map. As I just defeated the 4th boss there, basically that boss that I just fought works exactly like the previous claw boss. He bounces around off the walls, flies back and forth, and he just drops the little bats out. Very easy boss. If you've played if you're average at platform games with those types of bosses like a Mega Man or anything like that, you'll plow through these enemies